Okay, in this video, what we're going to be doing is creating an API route that will accept some data via a POST request and use that data to create a new entry in the database. I've already created the API route file, which is this file right here, and I've included that in my app.js using this line right here. Const API router equals require the API file from the routes folder. And then down here, there is app.use/API. So everything inside of this API router is going to be underneath /API. And this is the basic file that I've got. It uses the main route is just an empty JSON response so that we don't get any unnecessary requests to /API. What I'm going to be doing is creating a new route, which is a POST request. So router.post. The first argument is going to be the URL that we're sending it. And in my case, it's going to be POST because that's the thing that I'm creating. And then the second argument is a function. This is the standard express function. Request, result, and next. So that is the router that has basically created a new route called API/post. So inside of this route, what we want to do is actually use the models. We want to use the post model. And to get that, I need to actually include that folder first. So const models equals require double dot to go up a folder, and then it's models. So that inside here, I can actually start typing models.post, and then I can use the create method on that post. So the create method, that actually it will attempt to create a new thing in the database. The first argument that it takes is an object, and the properties of that object they match what should be in your model for the thing that you're creating. So if I visit the post file, I can see that it takes a title, which is a string, and a content, which is also a string. It does have these extra associations, so it's got a user, and it actually also has many categories, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So using the title and the content, I know that those are the two things that this post needs. It also needs the user ID, so we'll get to that in a second. Title is equal to an empty string for now. Content, also an empty string. And user ID, that will be the ID of the user that is currently logged in. Now, if you've set up the application using the example request, the auth file, the user ID will actually be stored on request.user for every time that the request is sent. You might want to add a little check before we start creating to check whether the user is authenticated. But we're just going to assume that. So at the moment, I'm going to make the ID 1. That's just going to make every post that we create using the API underneath user ID 1. So where am I going to get these values from? Title and content. Well, if we're posting something, usually that means that there's some form data attached. And form data, when it's submitted through Express, comes onto the body. So it's going to be request.body.title. And same thing goes for content, request.body.content. Once I've created this entry, I then need to call a then function, because then it's going to know what to do next. Once it's created that entry, then it's going to actually call a response. So this then function gets passed the result of that create function, which in our case is a post. It's going to pass through the post that it just created. And then we're going to return that with a response using just JSON data. I'm going to send it back through like so. So using the post that came through from this create method, send a JSON response back to the client. In our case, we're going to be using Postman. I can switch to Postman now. I've already got it open. And what I'm going to do is create a new request. It's going to be a post request. I'm going to send it to the route that we created, which is localhost 3000/API/post. Then in the body, it's going to be form encoded. And the two fields that I know I need to send through are title, example title, and content, example content. So now I need to restart my server, actually start the server. And now when I send that post, it will create that entry in the database and return it as JSON data. Hopefully that makes sense. You can actually see that this is posting data. It's creating an entry in the database, and then it's returning a response.